evening, one and all, and welcome to Monday Night Travel with Rick, Steve, Syrup. Tonight, we are going to explore the must-sees and hidden gems of Copenhagen, Oslo, and Stockholm. My name is Emily Burks. I will be your host this evening, and sitting here next to me is my friend and colleague, Dave Hoerlein.
Happy to be here, Emily.
And on that note, I think we can get things started. I am so happy to be joined this evening by the one and only Dave Hoerlein. Dave is Rick's very first employee ever, and he is one of our resident map makers. So if you have used one of our maps on our website or in one of our guidebooks, you are familiar with Dave's work. But recently, he is becoming a favorite speaker at our virtual events. He joined us on a Monday Night Travel back in February to do a report on a southern road trip he did last year. And more recently, he joined us for our Festival of Tours in April, and he expertly presented on our Italy itineraries. But Dave, I was wondering, what have you been up to since April?
Lately, I've actually taken a tour. I led many tours back in the day for Rick, but I'd never been a tour member before. But my wife, son, and I recently took the Adriatic tour. That's the tour that goes to Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, parts of the former Yugoslavia. And I got to tell you, I loved every minute of being a tour member. It was fantastic. Weather was great in the 80s. You can see my sunburned nose here as evidence of that, but it was a fabulous tour. So I loved it.
Wonderful. Well, I'm glad that you got to be on the other side of things for a change. But tonight, our focus is on a region that is a little farther north than the Adriatic. We are talking about the three Scandinavian capital cities. And Dave, I know you have a lot of personal connections to this region, and I was hoping you could tell us a little bit more about those.
I would be happy to. I have a degree in architecture, and on my first trip to Europe after I graduated, I realized that I really loved Europe's vibrant cities, and I wanted to study urban design. I knew that Copenhagen had a place called the Royal Academy that taught urban design, kind of a grad school type thing, and they accepted a few foreigners, but the catch was you had to learn Danish. Danish is not an easy language. So I took some Danish classes here in Seattle, and one of those teachers became my wife. So that's kind of part of my connection there. And then she and I, her name is Yena. She and I were the first ones that co-led our first Rick Steve Scandinavia tour. Must have been like 30 years ago. So this tour has always been really, really close to my heart.
Well, I am really excited to learn more about Dave's Copenhagen. But before we get to that, I just want to go over our show for the evening. So we are talking about three Scandinavian capitals this evening, the three Scandinavian capitals, Copenhagen, Stockholm, and Oslo. And in each one, we will be talking about the can't be missed, must see sites. So that is a Renaissance castle in Copenhagen. That could be a near perfectly preserved 17th century ship at the Vasa Museum in Stockholm, and a public park sprinkled with statues by Norway's greatest sculptor in Oslo. And to round out your experience, we will also be covering some hidden gems and under the radar, sort of locals only type experiences. So that is going to be harbor swimming in Copenhagen. It could be Swedish fika in Stockholm. And we will also set sail and see some secret islands on the Oslo fjord. I also want to add that these three cities are now linked by our brand new Scandinavia tour, the best of the Scandinavian capitals in 10 days. Our 2-week Scandinavia tour that Dave was just talking about always flies off the shelves. And so we decided to add a brand new itinerary to our lineup. This tour won't be running until 2027, but you can sign up to join us now using a link in the chat widget. Many of the sites and experiences that we'll be talking about today are included on this itinerary. And so the outline of this presentation is inspired and follows this tour, but the sites and cultural activities are things that any traveler can do. So you can think of it as a virtual guide for prospective tour members and independent travelers to the Scandinavian capitals. And on that note, I think we should get started in Denmark.
Okay, Let's go to Denmark and its capital, Copenhagen. First of all, here's my wife, Jena, at her parents' farm about an hour from Copenhagen. We were married in 1989 in this place called Tingstedet. It's a prehistoric stone circle, a meeting place. And Emily, I know that you're engaged, and I was just wondering if you were seeking a wedding venue. I can highly recommend the Stone Circle. It's a little far from Seattle, but it's a nice spot.
I'll see if my fiance's up for a destination wedding. That could be exciting.
Copenhagen. The name Copenhagen, it comes from the Danish København, which means merchant's harbor. And I think this part of town here called Newhavn really evokes that quality best. But to me, this image here really shows me what I think of when I think of Copenhagen, a very relaxed, genteel city, bike friendly, on the water with fabulous views and great architecture. The city itself is kind of divided in two with the big channel in the middle. On the most of the sites of Copenhagen tend to be on the west side of that channel. If you can see that pink street that's running down kind of the middle there, that's called the Strøget. It's about a 3/4 mile pedestrian street that connects Tivoli Gardens and the City Hall on the left with the Newhavn area up on the top there. And that's really kind of the spine of Copenhagen, and many different pedestrian streets kind of head off of that. On the other side of that channel is the island of Amager, and that's where you find the neighborhood of Christianshavn, the Opera House, and a rapidly gentrifying area north of there that's really lively and fun. What do I like about Copenhagen? It's really a pedestrian paradise. It was one of the first European cities really to advance that idea of making streets for people. And the common thread with it, when this happens in Europe, is the merchants don't like it. Initially, they think, what's going to happen? People can't park in front of our shop. How are we going to get any business? But quickly they realize when they close those streets off and provide parking around the outside, you get more customers than you ever had before. And Copenhagen is really a model for that. It's also very bike friendly with designated bicycle lanes, your own traffic lights and all that. I would say if you like biking at all, even if you haven't been on a bike for a while, it'd be great to rent a bike in Copenhagen and get the feel of the city that way. It's also a great pace, a nice way to travel. Go by water too. This is one of the tour boats that cruises the various canals. There's also a city harbor bus that kind of goes back and forth. You can rent your own boat, take other little excursions. Yeah, seeing the city from the water is really the best. If you like to swim, and I know you like to swim, Emily, and
Mhm.
cold water is not necessarily an enemy to you, you can check out the harbor baths. They had a proposal some years ago to make the city channel clean enough for swimming, and people kind of scoffed at it and said, no way, how can that ever happen? But it did. And Copenhagen has several of these harbor baths where people love to go swimming in the summer. And the water is a little chilly. It is the Baltic after all.
It is refreshing, I would
Very,
say. I
yeah.
have done it once and it was
Okay.
lovely.
Oh,
And
good.
I would say everyone swimming in it, I think kind of makes it seem like it's not as cold as
Yeah.
maybe it actually is.
Yeah, there's probably a nice thing about numbers
Yes.
too. I think one of the great things about Copenhagen and Denmark too is its sense of design, from some silverware to a lamp to a furniture to a house to a city. Design is really crucial to their culture. After all that biking and swimming and walking, you got to hit the bakeries. And it seems like in Denmark and Copenhagen, there's one in every corner. And your job is to go in there, try and order what you want in Danish, and then maybe try and have one of everything over the course of your stay. As far as top three sites in Copenhagen, I would say Rosenborg Castle is definitely one of those. That's a castle of Christian the Fourth. He was the king in the 1600s and built many things in Copenhagen. You'll see his symbol, the C with a four, on a lot of different buildings, and there's an image of him on the right. Tivoli Gardens is also a special place in Copenhagen. It's a very small, compact amusement park, very close to the City Hall Square. I think it's really at its best at night, so I would advise going in the afternoon, and then as dusk falls and the lights come on and start twinkling, it's really magical.
Have you ever seen the ballet at
I
Tivoli?
have, yes. Yeah, there's all kinds of, it's fairly expensive to get in, but once you're in, there's a lot of different kinds of free entertainment. So it's a really pretty good deal.
Mhm.
The National Museum is another important site, including this Bronze Age sun chariot. This actually was found very close to where my wife's family grew up, about an hour from Copenhagen. As far as some other sites go, secondary sites, I really like the new Carlsberg Glyptotek. Carlsberg, of course, is the family behind the beer company. And it's beer money really financed this very eclectic collection of, you can see Rodin's Thinker there in the foreground. Inside is also a wonderful winter garden with palm trees, and then various wings head off of that. And you'll find Etruscan collection, Egyptian, Roman, Impressionism, even post-Impressionism. And a lot of people have heard of Paul Gauguin, the French artist who did a lot of his work in Tahiti. Some of his work is actually in here when he lived in Denmark, because he was initially married to a Danish woman. So if you're an art historian, it's fun to really explore the nooks and crannies of this museum. If you want to get away from the center of Copenhagen, our favorite Danish island is one called Aro. We talk about that a lot in our Scandinavia book. But the problem is, if you have a short visit, it's 3 or 4 hours away from Copenhagen. If you want to get a quick taste of a small, cozy Danish town, I can recommend Dragør. It's like a half an hour bus ride from the center of town. Beautiful mustard-colored houses, framed by hollyhocks. It's all very hyggelig, which is that unique Danish word that's a little hard to translate. It basically means cozy, warm, welcoming, something like that. So practice that word hyggelig, and then you'll go far in Denmark. Copenhagen is flat. I have to admit that, and that makes it good for biking. But there's a lot of really nice spires. In fact, Copenhagen is called the city of the beautiful spires. But which one do you climb for a good view? Well, my money's on Our Savior's Church in the neighborhood of Christianshavn. Most church towers that you climb have an interior stairway. In the case of this one, though, the stairway winds around the outside. So if you have acrophobia, you may want to give this one a miss. But there's a pretty good railing there, and the view is fabulous the higher and higher you get of the city below. We're moving on to Sweden now. I'm just going to say a little bit about the layout of Stockholm. Stockholm was a city of many islands. In fact, its tourist motto used to be beauty upon water. And that really, I think, explains what Stockholm is all about. That main island there in the center is the Gamlestan. That's the old city, old part of Stockholm. Very atmospheric, narrow streets and all that. There's a bunch of other islands too. Over on the right is Djurgården. That's where you have the Vasa Museum that we're going to hear about later. That's also where they have the ABBA Museum that we're going to hear about later, and also a beautiful amusement park and folk museum called Skansen. So Stockholm is just a fabulous city. It's a lake on the left and then the Baltic Sea on the right that kind of come together to form this wonderful, wonderful place.
Thank you for that orientation, Dave. And up next, we are actually going to hear from 3 Rick Steves Europe staffers about their top 3 experiences in Stockholm. So let's see.
Hi, my name is Rich, and I work at the customer experience team at Rick Steves, and I am going to share my top 3 sites in Stockholm. So Gamlestan is the oldest part of Stockholm, and it's one of my favorite areas to wander through. You have some of the oldest buildings in the city, and it's got all these beautiful colored buildings and narrow little streets to wander through. Rick has an excellent self-guided walking tour in the guidebook that will get you oriented. Lots of old architecture, wonderful place, lots of little bakeries, restaurants. It's a really fun place to explore. There are several major sites on Gamlestan, such as the Royal Palace, where you can see the changing of the guard every day. Stortorget, which is the main square, filled with all these colorful old buildings and lots of little narrow streets and alleyways. Nearby is the island of Djurgården, which has 2 of my favorite museums, the Vasa Ship Museum, which is in front here with the masts, and right next to it, the Nordic Museum.
Have you been to the Vasa Museum, Dave?
I have. In fact, I went back, and this is actually the newer museum. I went back in the day when they'd recently dragged it up from the bottom of the sea there, and they stuffed it into a warehouse at first, and you had to kind of walk in through these hermetically sealed doors because they were trying to keep it from decomposing because it had been underwater and it was preserved there. But once they got it above ground and the air, they were trying to inject it with, I think, glycerin and all that, but it wasn't displayed very nicely. Now You can see it from the outside there, and we'll see some images from the inside. I think it's one of Europe's best museums. And honestly, if it was closer to the center of Europe, it would be on everyone's itinerary when they go to Europe. I think Rich is going to tell us more about it.
The Vasa Ship Museum the highlight is the Vasa, which is an old sailing ship, which sank on its maiden voyage in 1628. The water in Stockholm harbor is so cold that the ship was very well preserved. They found it in the late 1960s, raised it up, did some refurbishing of it, and built this museum all the way around it. So you have different exhibits throughout the museum, one of which are some reconstruction of some of the artwork from the ship, painted in the original colors. They also have several models of what the ship looked like. This is a model showing the ship as it set sail and leaned really far to the port and then began to sink. Right next door, it's the Nordic Museum, a beautiful old Danish Renaissance palace. Inside, there are many floors highlighting Swedish design, Swedish and Nordic design over 500 years. So you have the main hallway here, and in the end of it is a big wooden statue of Gustav Vasa, who is known as the founder of modern Sweden. The various floors of the museum showcase Swedish design and lifestyle throughout the centuries. So lots of interesting sights to see, and the museum is never very full. Thanks for touring Stockholm with me. I hope you have a fantastic trip. Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone. I am Gabe. I'm a host of Monday Night Travel, and I'm excited to share with you my Stockholm top 3. The city of Stockholm is situated on 14 islands, and one of those islands is the Djurgården, meaning animal garden, because 400 years ago, this was the king's hunting grounds. Today, it is the hunting grounds for locals and tourists alike as they seek some quiet respite, some beautiful biking trails, and some of the city's greatest and kitschiest sights. One of those great sites is Skansen. Skansen was founded in 1891 to preserve Swedish heritage, and Rick refers to it as Europe's first and best open-air museum. The museum boasts over 150 preserved buildings, and you can pop into them to learn about everything from traditional sewing to glass-blowing practices. From windmills to reindeer to traditional treats, Skansen is an eclectic sampler platter of Swedish history and culture. Plus, in the summer, the museum offers fiddling and dancing demonstrations on Friday and Saturday evenings. Beyond the 14 islands of Stockholm proper, the Stockholm archipelago has over 24,000 islands and small rocky skerries. About 100 of these islands have ferry service, and on a clear day, an idyllic activity is to hop onto a ferry boat and enjoy the views from the water. You can admire the sailboats and the mighty stone forts and cascading waterfront sculptures. On my trip to Stockholm, I hopped off at the town of Vaxholm on the easily accessible island of Vaxholm and was immediately charmed. While Vaxholm boasts a famous Art Nouveau hotel and imposing fortress, I was most interested in exercising my right to roam. I traipsed along waterside boardwalks, tiptoed through forest trails, passed by fairy tale gardens and swan-flecked coves, until I found a nice rocky outcropping to enjoy my picnic before hopping back on the ferry boat before sunset. To finish out my day in Stockholm and to finish off this top 3, I'm going to visit one more island in Stockholm, and that is the island of Södermalm in the southern part of Stockholm. Södermalm has fewer sites and, as a result, fewer tourists than central Stockholm. Instead, it is a hub of local life with convivial beer halls, restaurants with excellent views, plenty of trendy shops, and sufficiently hipster music venues and bars for those that want to experience some Stockholm nightlife. In fact, I didn't even realize until after my trip that because there aren't many blockbuster sites in this neighborhood, I didn't actually take many photos. So I guess you were just going to have to go to Södermalm and explore it for yourself. Thank you for joining me for my Stockholm top 3, and I hope that you are able to assemble your own top 3 in Stockholm soon.
Hello, my name is Marta, and I'm a travel advisor here at Rick Steves Europe. I'm excited to share with you today my Stockholm top 3. So anyone who has talked to me for more than 5 minutes knows I'm a huge ABBA fan. So the ABBA Museum is one of my favorite parts of Stockholm, of course. Sweden has an incredible pop music tradition. In fact, it's one of the world's largest music exporters per capita, and Stockholm is considered the pop music capital of the world. So if you enjoy pop music, there is a good chance that a lot of your favorite songs were written or produced right in Stockholm. And a lot of that success can be traced back to the Swedish group ABBA. So this museum has original stage costumes, memorabilia, and it really takes you through each member's history and how the group came together and became an international sensation after winning the Eurovision Song Contest in 1974. The museum is also very immersive and interactive with recreations of their recording studio and actual booths where you can record yourself singing ABBA songs. You can even step on a real stage and perform alongside a holographic version of the group. So here I am singing Dancing Queen with Bjorn, Agneta, Annie-Frid, and Benny. So for a few minutes, the group wasn't ABBA anymore, it was MABA. One of my favorite things about travel is meeting people from other countries. And these 4 wonderful humans are Ylva, Hakan, Gabriella, and Igor. They are all Stockholm natives and Rick Steves tour guides as well. Ylva has been guiding travelers through Scandinavia for nearly 50 years. And here she is pictured with her daughter, Gabby. Her partner, Hakan, is an expert Stockholm guide as well. And actually, both of their children followed in their footsteps because this is their son, Igor. So it's really a family affair. So one of the highlights of my trip was being invited into their apartment in Gamla stan, which is Stockholm's beautiful old town. The building itself is about 400 years old, and we gathered here in their living room, enjoyed Swedish treats, and had an open Q&A about everything from daily life and family traditions to politics and culture. They answered all of our questions so honestly and directly, which I think is quite Swedish and is very refreshing to Americans. And I think too, Swedish people have a stereotype of being more reserved, but our guides here are evidence that if you just break the ice a little bit, Swedish people are really very hospitable, warm, and welcoming. And finally, I have to talk about the food. One of Sweden's most beloved traditions is the fika, which loosely translates to coffee break. Culturally, it means so much more. It's really like an intentional pause to share coffee, a pastry, and conversation with others. This here is a kanelbullar, which is a kind of Swedish cinnamon roll, a classic fika treat. And my first dinner in Stockholm was a plate of traditional Swedish meatballs served in the classic way with lingonberries, pickled cucumbers, and mashed potatoes. It's a very typical Swedish meal, ones that Swedes really do eat a lot, and I could honestly eat this every day. The combination of the sweet, savory, and tangy flavors is pretty unmatched. You kind of have to get a bite of each of them on your fork together, and it is so satisfying. And finally, Marabou chocolate. You can find these yellow wrapped chocolate bars in local grocery stores all over Sweden. It's one of my favorite chocolates in all of Europe. They're inexpensive, they're delicious. I would never leave Stockholm without at least several of these to bring back home. And I actually have one right here. So I am going to go enjoy this. Thank you so much. Bye.
All right. Well, I never pass up the opportunity for a sweet treat. So, Dave, I actually picked up some Scandinavian treats from a Scandinavian bakery near
Fantastic.
my
Oh,
apartment.
you can see these.
So we can enjoy our own.
Whoa.
That was bound to happen. So we can enjoy our own fika. But what we have here is very traditional. We have a raspberry thumbprint cookie, which I'm sure probably everyone in the audience has enjoyed one of these before. But this is actually one of the seven traditional Swedish cookies that could be served with a fika. So tonight we're enjoying just one, but we also will have princess cake. So this is gonna do my best not to spill, but princess cake is actually the national cake of Sweden. So that feels very Scandinavian to me. They have a national cake, and it is just like a vanilla sponge cake with a little jam and a marzipan layer. And like Marta said, fika is more than a coffee break. It is a social ritual during which people are present and they connect. There are no phones. And it's such a well-established tradition that many offices in Sweden actually schedule fika breaks into the daily schedule. Some of them even have two, one in the morning, one in the afternoon.
Sounds very civilized to me.
Yes, and we are a European company, so I think this is something that we could adopt. And yeah, you can take your fika at work, you can have it at a cafe, you can invite your friends over and have a casual gathering. So if anyone wants to practice this tradition at home, you can do so. Or you can, like Dave and I, enjoy your fika during a virtual live stream. And so we'll be enjoying those soon.
We'll devour those later.
Yeah. But now it is time to move on to our final country for tonight's presentation, and that is Norway.
All right, so I'll do a quick orientation of Oslo, and then we can turn it over to Paul. Oslo is a city located at the very end of the Oslo fjord, and the main part of the city is on the upper part of the map. Copenhagen has the Strøget. Oslo has Karl Johans gate that runs from the train station to the Royal Palace. That's their main pedestrian spine. And most of the sites in Oslo are between that pedestrian street and the harbor, including the City Hall and many museums. The Frogner Park is in the upper left. We're going to hear about that later. And also there's many islands to the southern part of the city where ferries, many of them electric, connect Oslo with all these different cool islands that Paul and Rick will talk about in a sec.
Thank you for that orientation, Dave. And now on to Oslo, the littlest of the Scandinavian capitals, but I think we'll find it's full of many unexpected sightseeing thrills.
Small but mighty.
Yes.
Hi there, I'm Paul from Norway, and right behind me here I have a new neighborhood in Oslo called Bjørvika.
Bjørvika is situated on the east side of Oslo and is a part of town which has been completely revitalized the last 15 years. Plenty of new world-class architecture, big sites and a proximity to the fjord makes this a must-see when you visit Oslo. It's hard to even imagine that not so many years ago this was all an industrial harbor.
Today, however, all the containers are gone, and the highway that used to run here is put in a tunnel that goes under this area.
In Bjørvika today you find buildings such as the Opera House, the new Monk Museum, a new public library. You find saunas, restaurants, art galleries, beaches and much more.
Let's go and have a closer look.
Heading down towards the bay of Bjørvika, you can see the iconic Opera House. The angled exterior surfaces of the building are covered with marble from Carrara, Italy, and make it appear to rise up from the fjord. The roof of the building angles down to the ground level, creating a large plaza that invites pedestrians to walk up and enjoy great panoramic views of Oslo. Inside the Opera House you find walls made of oak and big windows with great views of the city and the water. Just behind the Opera House is the new Deichman Public Library. Here are 6 floors packed with literature, study places and workshops with, for instance, vinyl cutters and 3D printers. It's become a favorite spot to hang out for the locals, and you can read a book in peace and quiet while having a great view of the city and the fjord. There's also a lot of public art on the inside, so make sure to pop by this building, which in 2021 was named the world's best new public library. Edvard Munch, Norway's most internationally known artist, got this new museum that opened in 2021.
Okay, Dave. So because you have a background in design, I am curious what you would rate this project. Obviously, this renewal changed the skyline of the city probably quite drastically, but now the residents have this whole new playground where they can relax and study and swim, even go for a sauna. So I'm curious what you would rate this urban renewal project.
Oh, I think they did a great job. Oslo, like a lot of Scandinavian cities, Copenhagen, not so much Stockholm, it really kind of turned its back on the water and used it much more for industry. But this trend in the last 20 years is to really open up the harbor front for people. Sometimes that requires, like in Oslo, getting industry and giving them incentives to move away from that area. But then it opens up these whole possibilities and gives architects and urban designers a blank slate on which to create this incredible architecture and people-friendly places. In the case of this Munch Museum, it used to be on the far side of the city and it was a little hard to get to. Now it's right downtown. And maybe you've noticed I'm wearing a Munch screen tie. If you ever thought you were a Munch fan, even if you don't think you're a Munch fan, his work is so much more than the scream. And I'd really urge you to check out this museum.
I love that you have a tie for every occasion, Dave.
I try.
I also wanted to mention, I think I failed to introduce him, but Paul is actually one of our amazing Rick Steve Scandinavia guides. And he also has a really informative, engaging video channel dedicated to Norway travel. And if you would like to watch more of Paul's videos, you can find a link to his YouTube channel in the chat. And now we are going to take a look at a couple different places you can visit in Oslo if you would like to learn more about Norwegian artists.
It's the biggest art museum in the world, dedicated to one artist only. Inside, you can find paintings such as The Scream and Madonna. To see the art, you need an entrance ticket, but you can ride the elevator to the top for free and enjoy the view of Bjørvika and Oslo.
Oslo is perhaps most famous for this sculpture garden, which is called Vigelandsparken, where you find over 200 sculptures and 700 figures by Norwegian artist Gustav Vigeland.
Okay, I am stopping here again in Frogner Park because Rick actually had a very formative experience there as a young traveler. And so I have a little story for you. On Rick's first trip to Europe, he experienced what he considers his most profound experience. While visiting relatives in Norway among the great stony statues of Gustav Vigeland in Oslo's vast Frogner Park, he watched countless parents lavish love on their children. Immersed in this grand, chiseled celebration of family and humanity, Rick realized that those parents loved their kids just as much as his parents loved him. There, his 14-year-old egocentric worldview took a hit as he realized the world was home to billions of equally lovable children of God. Later that evening, as he sat on his Norwegian cousin's carpet watching the 1969 Apollo moon landing on a black and white TV, he realized that while the triumph was American, the world celebrated together. At that moment, he understood we all share a precious and irreplaceable planet, and love thy neighbor had nothing to do with proximity. Whether across the street or across the sea, we are all family. This story, you can really see the seeds of Rick's travel philosophy. Even 55 years ago, when he was a teenager, he knew that travel was a culturally broadening experience. And it also today has inspired our climate smart commitment, which is a self-imposed carbon tax that we impose on ourselves as a travel company. We recognize that even just one international flight can cause a lot of, well, it emits lots of carbon in the atmosphere, which contributes to the climate crisis. And we take many travelers to Europe a year. And so we mitigate that impact by contributing to climate smart initiatives in the developing world. And if you would like to learn more about our 2026 portfolio and all of the nonprofits that we are contributing to this year, you can look at our climate smart commitment using the link in the chat widget.
Behind me here is probably one of the best hidden gems in Oslo, which is the museum and the mausoleum of artist Emanuel Vigeland. Emanuel Vigeland, younger brother of the well-known artist Gustav Vigeland, created this place in 1926, meant to be a future museum for his paintings and sculptures. He later decided that it should also serve as his mausoleum, so all the windows were closed and his urn is placed over the entrance door. The main attraction of this museum is a dark, barrel-vaulted room covered with fresco paintings. The art shows human life from conception till death, much of it quite dramatic and in some cases quite erotic. Bronze figures underline the dedication to the mystery of procreation. I think this museum is one of the most unique museum experiences we have in Oslo. The dimly lit frescoes and many nude figures, coupled with an intense acoustics, makes a visit here a very special experience. Note that few visitors are allowed per day, so book your tickets ahead of time.
All right, I am pausing once more because I just wanted to note that Lisa has kindly shared the link to this mausoleum museum in the chat widget, so you can use that to book your tickets. But currently, the museum is only open on Sundays. So if this is something you would like to see while you are in Oslo, you need to make sure you are there on a Sunday.
Not far away on Alexander Kiellands Square is the Syverkiosken hot dog stand, a hot dog institution in Oslo and the only remaining classic hot dog kiosk in town. In terms of street food in Oslo, I think this must be one of the best hidden gems, and the hot dogs are simply delicious. All right, so I'm standing here at the Syverkiosk, and here is the owner, Alan, standing here. And Alan, how long have you been here?
Almost 34 years now. So I started here with my father in 1991.
Oh, really?
I was just 13 years old. I was helping my father.
Ah, cool. So you basically grew up eating hot dogs?
Yeah, the first time I was here it was in 1980.
Wow. The year
I was just 2 years old.
The year I was born, actually. First one out with caramelized onions, the homemade mashed potato, bun, and the lump. Really taste the caramelized onions. A little bit of sour flavor to it. Definitely a good choice. So Alan, which kind is this? Which one is this?
We called it Oslo hot dog. It's a little bit sour and with homemade mustard, ketchup, potato, and onion salad, and pickled red onions.
Wow.
Hope it tastes good.
Sounds really good. So, hot dog number 2. This is the Oslo hot dog. Delicious. It's really nice with the potato salad. Has some pickles in it. Onions. Delicious. Might be my favorite. I like the fact that it's kind of but you only have one type of hot dog.
Yeah.
But it's actually what you put on it, which is sort of the most important here.
Yeah.
You usually go to a hot dog stand, there's like 50 kinds of different hot dogs.
Yeah.
And then they have like mustard and ketchup and roasted onions.
Yeah.
But here it's just what you put on it that makes it so exciting.
For the next gem, I head down to the waterfront to catch a harbor ferry, departing just in front of the city hall. These electric ferries go all year around out to the islands of Oslo, and is a great way to combine an inexpensive fjord cruise with an island hopping experience. My plan is to visit one of the hytteøyene, the cabin islands. These are islands dotted with small, colorful cottages, and as a visitor, you're free to stroll around. I'm getting off at the second stop, to the island known as Lindøya, Once off the ferry, I begin exploring all the small paths which take you to different parts of the island. My goal is to walk from the east and over to the west end of the island, where there's another dock for the ferry.
This island is just so charming, incredibly charming. We're dotted with all these small cabins, and there are little hiking paths you can walk on. And you have the right to roam, like you do pretty much everywhere in Norway. So you can walk anywhere, but you can't walk into anyone's garden. So be mindful when you're out here. Don't go knocking on any doors or looking through any windows. But except for that, you can walk freely around and just enjoy this very beautiful gem, which is so close to the city center.
The history of these cottages stretches about 100 years back in time, when they were built by workers from the city. Most of them are still owned by locals and have become a popular retreat during the summertime. Strolling around is such a great experience, as you get up close to nature, walking along the shoreline, and small hilltops provide amazing views of the fjord.
Hello, Paul here. I am in Oslo. I'm here with my good friend Rick Steves.
My name's Rick Steves. I've been before the best of Europe.
And we are on a fjord cruise ferry. And how much did you pay for this fjord cruise?
Really? I paid nothing because I bought the Oslo pass. And so the cool thing about that is I don't even have to know how much it costs. I just hop on the ferry.
And I just wanted to note really quickly that the Oslo City Pass does give you free public transit to everything within Oslo City Center and the surrounding suburbs. So whether that's buses, subways, ferries, or trains, you get it all for free with the Oslo City Pass. And even more exciting, you also get admission to over 30 museums in Oslo, including the Munch Museum. We actually give our tour members the Oslo Pass while they're in Oslo so that they can explore the city freely during their free time. But independent travelers, if you are going to Oslo, you can find a link to the Oslo Pass in the chat widget.
So we're going to go out to the different islands. It's going to take 1 hour, and it's going to be a really scenic cruise. And
Tell me how that if we did have to pay for the ride, it would cost 40.
It would cost 40 kroner normally. So, but
that's the way the Norwegians have made it around exactly easy to figure out. It's a dime and then a dollar.
Exactly, $4. Yeah.
Sure.
So we just hopped off at first island, Hovedøya. What's your impression so far, Rick?
It's so easy. It's so easy, and in 10 minutes, you're away from the city. I mean, yeah, like around us,
it's a different world.
Yeah.
It's all green. There's a fox out there, actually.
Is that right?
I see her in a hunt.
Well, I mean, Oslo is on a fjord. And as you mentioned earlier, the cool thing is now, because Oslo has replaced that industrial waste that, understandably, the city looked away from the fjord in those days, but now the city looks at the fjord.
Yeah.
And consequently, you got more convenient ferry connections to the little island.
Exactly. The fjord is not just something it's not just a body of water that we look at, we actually use it. Yeah. We go boating on it, we swim in the fjord, we fish, we kayak, we do all sorts of things.
And swimming in the bird's a big deal these days.
It's a huge deal.
Nobody swims in our fjord.
I mean, you don't visit Oslo without your swimming gear, because you might regret it. You might want to jump into the fjord.
I'm wearing my swimsuit as we speak.
Perfect.
Therefore, when they got the excuse to dissolve the monasteries under Martin Luther, they say, okay, no more monks, we own the land, and we can read the Bible in our own language.
Exactly. And then this monastery here was basically seen as building material, recycling at that time. So they came out here and they took rocks and they brought it back to the fortress.
Into the city?
Yeah, to the city. So when you walk on Akershus fortress, you can find rocks that comes from here. Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, you don't expect to see something from the 12th century in Oslo.
Because we built everything in wood back then.
That's it.
That's why we have very few, actually, of these historical buildings still standing. So it's a good reason to come out here to this island.
And with my Oslo pass, I can hop on the boat. I can step into any site. This is my key to the city.
It is.
And with my biking ticket,
yeah.
What do we call that? A city bike.
The city bike, also city bike.
City bike. boy, you've got a 3-day pass for $10. You got access to all the bikes all around.
No, bikes all over the continent. Keep those Swedes away.
Swedes.
Yeah.
Takes more than 10 cannon now.
So I just had to include that clip because I think it's so fun to see Rick doing guidebook research, and you can just tell how happy he is while he's doing it. And he spent what he says a third of his adult life in Europe, and a lot of that time has been spent updating the guidebooks, just like he is doing there with Paul. And that's just a little snippet from a vlog that Paul took of a day he spent in Oslo with Rick, helping him update his guidebook. So if you want to watch more, you can find that on Paul's YouTube channel. And thank you to Paul for letting us use his wonderful content. I'm sure you guys all enjoyed it. And now we are going to start wrapping up our show. And I believe, Dave, you are going to teach us how to cheers like a true Scandinavian.
I will do my best. And first of all, here's your beer, and here's mine.
Yeah.
In Scandinavia, in all these countries, what we call cheers, they call it skål. And they have a definite ritual to doing it. And Emily and I are going to demonstrate that now. First of all, you raise the glass, but never higher than your eyebrow, and give the person quick yet meaningful eye contact. And you drink. And before putting the glass down, another quick eye contact, and you lower the glass, and then you repeat as necessary. So think about that when you're in Scandinavia. It's really an important tradition, how to skål.
And do you say skål?
You do say skål.
Okay.
Yeah. I think skål, it comes from the term for skull, and it might have been back in the Viking days. I'm not sure, where they drank out of their enemies' skulls. I'm not sure, which is kind of a funny association, but a very important word is skål.
Thank you. It's a very important lesson, Dave. And we also want to give a shout out to some of our Scandinavian guides. If you take one of our Scandinavian tours, you might just end up on the road with one of these fine folks.
Yes.
And you can see Paul pictured there in the middle with Dave, actually.
Yeah, Paul is, as you could probably tell from his video, just a fantastic guy, warm and very knowledgeable, as are all of our guides.
Yes. And again, if you end up on one of our Scandinavian tours, you might just meet one of those fine folks. And tonight, the word from our sponsor, no surprise here, I believe, is our Best of Scandinavian Capitals in 10 Days tour. This is our brand new Scandinavian tour that links the 3 cities that we just talked about tonight. And we will be launching it officially in 2027, but you can sign up for it now at our website using the link in the chat. And we covered a number of the 14 group sightseeing events that we will do as a group on our Best of Scandinavian Cities tour. I highlighted the ones that we talked about tonight, but as you can see, there are many other exciting activities that you can experience on this tour. So again, if you would like to learn more about this itinerary, or if you are ready to sign up and head to the Scandinavian capitals, you can do so on our website, ricksteves.com. Okay, on that note, Dave, I think we have some questions.
Great, fire away.
From the audience. And first, I'll start with a hello to you from Alan and Emily from your ADR tour. They say hello, they're watching this evening.
Oh yeah, 2 wonderful people. Hi.
Okay, well, I think I will start with hopefully an easy one, Dave. So Bethany is wondering what the public transport is like to connect these 3 cities.
It's actually really excellent. There's a good train connections between Copenhagen and Stockholm and Oslo. And there's also connections by train from Copenhagen to Oslo. And there's also a boat, an overnight boat, a pretty nice boat, nicer than a basic ferry. It's almost like a cruise ship. That's a nice way to make the connection too. And also more recently in Europe, they have this system of long distance buses. I think it's Flixbus is one of the names, and they're often less expensive than the train. Maybe not quite as romantic as going by train, but they can be a little bit cheaper at about the same speed.
All right. And this question is for me. Sybil is wondering if I can tell everyone about my t-shirt. So this shirt, I will stand up, is obviously you can see it is a very famous painting of the French Revolution, Liberty Leading the People by Eugene Delacroix. But what it is for is Rick's Symphonic Journey. So this is an orchestra program that Rick, I'm not sure when we released it, but it's relatively new and you can find more on our website. But it's this wonderful music program, a musical journey through Europe where Rick plays the tour guide, fittingly, and he blends romantic era anthems with breathtaking visuals and his cultural insights. And he actually filmed this program with the Cincinnati Pops Orchestra, and you can watch it for free on our website or PBS. And it's really fun and it's really unique. So I highly recommend checking that out.
And as far as Scandinavia goes, I believe that he shows images of Norway while the orchestra is playing Grieg music. So it's really kind of a nice combination.
Yes. Okay. On to more questions about Scandinavia. Mary is wondering if an overnight would be worth it on the Stockholm archipelago. Do you think it's worth carving out a night in your itinerary, Dave? To spend the night there?
I think it's a case in many parts of Europe where there's a lot of easy day trips from these cities, but a lot of people are doing those day trips. So by spending the night, you can really have these places all to yourself. So I would say if you want some peace and quiet and can work it out and have the extra day, it would be worth it.
Perfect. Thank you. And I am actually getting a text from Lisa. Apparently, I misinterpreted my question about public transit. So apparently, Bethany meant public transit within the cities. My apologies, Bethany, not how to connect them by train. So what do you think of public transit within all of these cities we just covered?
Oh, it's fantastic. World class. They all have a train/subway system. They all have great buses, boats that connect various places. And then as we talked about before, they're very easy to get around with. They're very bike friendly and also for walking to connect the dots. So I think as far as public transportation, those three cities are among the best in Europe, probably among the best in the world.
They don't call them cutting edge for no reason. They earn that title. Okay, Eloise is wondering, that's my cat's name, so shout out to Eloise. Yeah, great name. Eloise is wondering how different or similar these three countries are. She's wondering what connects them culturally and also keeps them distinct.
That's a great question. I think to get the answer to that, you have to take the tour. No, but seriously, they are they're similar in many ways. I would say they're kind of a family together, but there are distinctions. Sometimes they're a little hard to tease out, but each have their own culture, their own language, and their own history. It is somewhat intertwined. For example, Norway was controlled by Denmark for 300 years and by Sweden for almost 100 years, where Sweden has kind of been its own entity for much longer, and then Denmark as well. So I would say they're similar yet very, very different.
Thank you for that insight. And Roz is wondering, I think I understand this question, but Lisa, let me know. Roz, let me know if this is not what you mean. I believe they're wondering what a good gift to bring home from Norway would be. So I believe they mean a souvenir to bring home, but Roz, okay. Lisa says no. I'm guessing they mean what is a good gift to bring a Norwegian from the States? What would you bring a Norwegian if you were visiting someone in Oslo, maybe? What would you bring Paul?
Oh,
our good friend Paul from the States?
It's actually a great question. I think obviously it depends on the person, what the kind of thing they would like, but some kind of like we're in Seattle, the Seahawks won the Super Bowl, some kind of Seahawks Super Bowl swag, a hat or a t-shirt, something like that would be kind of fun and very unique. But again, a lot of it would depend on the person. One thing I often do in the Seattle airport, you can buy chocolates in a little box in the shape of a ferry boat or the Space Needle, and that's kind of a fun, easy little thing too if you want to do something less expensive.
I like local chocolate bars for gifts for guests.
Oh yeah,
as
that's
well.
good.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Lisa and Ross, for clearing that up for me. Okay, I think we have time for 2 more questions. So Dave, let me know if this is not your niche, but Paul is wondering for fans of Ingmar Bergman, if there are any sites, any important cinema sites that they could visit.
Boy, I'm sure there are. I honestly don't know. That's kind of out of my wheelhouse. I will say on the plane on the way back a couple days ago, I saw the movie Sentimental Value with Stellan Skarsgård, I think. I thought that movie was fantastic, and I've heard it's very Bergman-esque in many ways. But that's my way of evading the question I don't know the answer to. But I'm sure it's possible. I would say Google it, and I'm sure there's plenty of information about that.
Amazing. And I agree. Sentimental Value is an amazing film, and if you are going to Scandinavia, you should definitely watch it. I would say paints Oslo as kind of an urban paradise, which I'm kind of getting the feeling it is. Things seem to run well there, so definitely check that out. And let's see. I think I will just end on what's maybe a tough question, Dave, but we just talked about 3 great cities. If you had to choose a favorite, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's tough. I would say Stockholm would be the most beautiful of the cities, just because everything is framed with a different angle with water and islands and all that. Oslo is probably the most dramatic because it's built on kind of a hillside. You can actually take the train to the top of the city to the ski jump for this amazing view. Copenhagen to me is the most lively and the warmest and the most open of the cities. And I guess because I live there and because I'm married to a Dane, I should probably say Copenhagen.
I figured. But good answer. Everyone won a superlative in that answer. So thank you. And I will also say that Cindy, I will make sure the name of the hot dog stand that Paul visited is included in the follow-up email. I'm not sure what it is off the top of my head, but that will be emailed to you within 24 hours. So keep an eye out for that. But Dave, thank you so much for joining us again and sharing your knowledge of Scandinavia and beer and just good fun.
School.
I think I passed. All right. And I also want to thank all of you for joining us this evening, whether this was your first show with Monday Night Travel, your 50th, or if you have seen them all. We are so happy to have you. Next week, we will be joined by our very own Lisa Friend and Gabe Gunnick, and they will be covering the best. They will be going beyond the best of France, so they will be covering those back doors all over France.
Sounds great. I'm tuning in.
So make sure you register to join us for that. And in the meantime, happy travels. Gabe, where can I find the subscribe button for the Rick Steves Travel Talks YouTube channel?
According to the map, the subscribe button should be over there, and you can click it to be notified of more great travel videos.
Oh, I see it.
And if you look over this way, you'll find a link to register for upcoming Monday Night Travel shows.
It's so beautiful. Oh, Gabe, you have a little pretzel in your teeth. We hope you'll join us again soon.